Hello, Heathens.
Hello, heathens.
Fair warning, I'm starting to get a cold. It's gonna knock out before it fully manifests, but
It
I'm
better.
a little slow today, as well as my words are not wording the best, so be prepared. I mean, it's probably no different than any other day, but also, I don't know. It earlier I sounded like the Swedish chef, so
Oink, oink, oink,
yeah.
oink,
I
oink.
do love this Swedish chef. He's so funny. Okay. Today we're talking about H.P. Lovecraft. We're gonna give it just a quick disclaimer because we can't not address this because I didn't know a lot about H.P. Lovecraft, to be honest. I just have a lot of his books because they look pretty on my shelf.
Well,
I haven't even read them.
he's a classic horror writer. A lot of horror people had gotten their inspiration. I would almost say, or dare to say, if you will, that most of your monster creature have spawned from his writings, right? But
100%.
we don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater, so this is our disclaimer.
Yes, and I did get help on it because it was hard to put all of our feelings in words. So I'm just going to read it verbatim because I think it's perfect for us. So just so you
Mm-hmm.
guys know, yes, GPT did help me with this because like this sounds very professional, but I wanted to get all of our feelings into one, just
Yeah.
easy disclaimer. So before we dive into H.P. Lovecraft's contributions to the horror genre, we want to acknowledge that his personal views, particularly his racism and xenophobia, which we know is well documented, were
Mm-hmm.
deeply harmful and unacceptable even in his time. We're super aware of that. We want to acknowledge that. While these views influenced some of his writings, our focus today is on his impact on cosmic horror and the broader literary legacy he gave. We don't condone his beliefs in any way, but we feel it's important to engage with like critically with his work while recognizing its flaws. So we
Right.
want to get his flaws out right away because I don't want you guys to think we are okay with that because we're not. Again, we don't condone it, but his writing and the idea of cosmic horror, which I really deep dived into today, I didn't even know that was a thing, really. And it's very, very interesting. I'm
Mm-hmm.
excited to talk about it.
Well, and this is the thing is we do this because we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? And we also have to like realize that we're going to have these triggers and these pitfalls come up for each of us at some point in time that we're going to have to face and, you know, um, overcome, really. Because at this point, I almost feel like the universe automatically gives you these triggers to make you stronger. And you're either going to grow and evolve from it, which is the lay of the land,
Hmm.
or you're going to stagnate and die. So, like, those are the things is that we really have to start looking up and stop being a victim to what is triggering us and really look in and dive deep into it and give it less power.
Yeah, use it to
So,
empower us.
right, because none of us are going to create perfect works of art without being a little fucked up.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a great way to start this, because H.P. Lovecraft's life was pretty fucked up.
It really was.
Yeah.
It was bad because like okay, so he was born August 20th, 1890 in Providence, Rhode Island.
Yep.
Now, one of the things is that they said the Lovecraft family could be traced back to like England.
Yeah, I read that they were like an aristocratic family from like a
Hmm.
really wealthy line, and I was like, interesting. I didn't know that.
And I think hers as well. I forget what her maiden name was, but like they could trace that back quite far as well. And we're talking like in this era, you're going to talk about mostly Puritans and those first like very extreme religious ruling kind of people. Um so this is he kind of comes by it naturally, basically. Like um his dad had died early on, I think when he was 3,
Yeah, when he was 3.
to a mental breakdown, and they said likely from syphilis related, but he was institutionalized until his death. And then after that, his mother went back to her father's house, I do believe, where he ended up growing up. And this is where he got a lot of his inspiration from his grandfather because he had this like attic library place and he would read these books and get inspired from it.
Yeah.
Um,
Which I'm jealous of because he got to go and like live. He lived a pretty good life in the way of like they were like well off because his dad was a businessman, but then he went and lived with his rich grandpa who had like an attic just full of books. And
mhm.
to also mention with that why he got to do that so much is because he had poor health and so he didn't go to school. And then also with everything that happened with his dad, he had like really bad social anxiety. So he was home a lot.
That wasn't the only thing. The mother was very cruel. There was the
Mm.
common thread between him and Aleister Crowley was both mothers were very cruel. Like they said that he was hideous and
Oh,
that he was um there was a lot like she talked about him being deformed in some way and this is all when he was a young boy. And so he's always thought of himself as a monster because of the upbringing of his mother. But then
mm.
the weird thing is of course, his mother goes into, eventually is institutionalized due to mental health issues as well.
Oh, I did not know that. I didn't read that today. Huh.
Yeah, so like, and this is why his mind is such a unique playground because it's he's not only projecting out his own insecurities about people, but it's really what he thinks about himself.
Yeah.
That he's not adequate, he's not perfect, he looks weird, he can't even go out in society and show them what he looks like because it would be devastating for everybody else. And this is how you get monster stories.
Yeah.
Little a little abuse over here, a little
A little
uh
mind fuckery right here.
right here,
Uh,
and some stories of some monsters here. Boom.
and Cosmic Horror was born.
Yep.
I also read that while he was living at his grandpa's, um, he read a lot of Edgar Allan Poe and then started also developing a special interest in astronomy, which I found very
Hmm.
interesting. Um, because the mix of the two kind of is just like is such a dumbed down version of saying, well, yeah, you take Edgar Allan Poe and you take astronomy and they have a baby and it's cosmic horror,
That is very true.
right?
Well, and so he didn't have to go to school because they were wealthy at that point. Um, so he didn't necessarily go to school. And then when he ended up, because eventually, well, basically the grandfather ended up making some bad business moves, and that's like a very broad way. I think there was a dam involved, and that went south. So then, he kind of lost all his fortune. So when he died, the inheritance that they all kind of received at that point was slim to none.
Yeah,
So
I heard they got or was listening to this thing that said that they got evicted like days after the grandpa's death.
yeah, because it was bad.
It's crazy.
Which I think they ended up getting. They went to live with the ants, right? After that?
I didn't, so the one that I hadn't really read much about it, and then I was watching this thing on YouTube and it was talking about how they lived in poverty after that until the mom went into something happened with the mom, but then I quit reading it or listening to it because I was like, I don't know. Anyways, but I don't know enough.
Yeah, she went into the mental. That's probably when she went into the mental institution, and then he went to go live with his aunts.
Gotcha.
Um, he suffered from frequent illnesses, physical, psychology, s- and isolation from his peers. And that was due, his mother kept him very close, and it was a weird relationship. Um, yeah, he developed the science astronomy. Oh, okay, so this is where I was going. So basically, when he did go to school, he was kind of upset with himself that he didn't know math enough to go into astronomy. I feel like he
Mm.
probably would have totally went into astronomy if he would have had the proper like education and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so his he became a writer, and his early like writings between like 1914 and 1924, he started in like amateur like journalism. So these were almost like little itty bitty. I would almost consider them like a comic book without pictures.
Yeah.
So it would just be these little short stories that were printed on like small, newsprint magazine kind of thingies. And these were out. Writers would basically submit their writings and see if they got any kind of like reviews back, and maybe they would get them picked up for a book or something like that. Um, yeah, his mother was, so she was in institutionalized 1919 and died 1921.
Mm. That's so funny you
Um,
say that because I read that um he started becoming more serious about his stories around like writing his stories around 1919.
hmm
And I wonder if his mother being institutionalized had a big part in that.
Oh, it probably did. Especially horror. I feel like, she wouldn't necessarily, I feel like a lot of people wouldn't necessarily understand his writings, which was interesting because if he was so, um, he wasn't really religious. It was more of like a purity of race kind of thing, I guess. And I don't, it's just weird that, where am I going? I lost it. It's gone.
Well, because we were talking about how I read that he had become more serious about his writings in 1919 or 1917, and then you had just said that his mom went into the mental institute in 1919. And I'm like, I wonder if his mom going into the mental institution made him more serious about his stories. And you were saying how it's like a lot of people wouldn't understand his writings because of the way he writes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so like I find the two concepts in his head's very conflicting because like horror and space and aliens seem so out of the box that like I don't understand why you would like this is okay, but mixing the races is bad. Like, do you know what I mean?
That's
Like
where she was going.
yeah,
Yes,
that's how I
yes.
was like, I don't know, I lost it, but yeah, so like. You're
That's
doing all
like
this stuff that's like way out of the box, where like this stuff and like blood and guts and scariness and all that kind of stuff. And then you go to this side and you're like, yeah, yeah, no. It's like Aleister Crowley, and like I still am blown away that he was a mountaineer.
yeah, I know, me too.
It's like,
Me too.
what? I don't understand.
It's like how? How? What do you mean?
Well, to me, if you're that evil, I don't see you going out and like conquering a mountain.
Well, right. Like you're anyways, yeah. You're gonna be a racist xenophobe, but you're gonna write about granted now again, this is where we get into the topic of he was also writing based on like his racism too.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
like you're benefiting off of writing this shit. You're okay with that, but then you're not okay. It's just
And this is why the mind is such a interesting place, I think, is because like stuff like this, like in my head doesn't make any sense, but like in his head, it made perfect sense. And if you were in my head, you'd be like, we have no idea,
Right.
you know, because I built this, you didn't, right?
Right.
Like, yeah, I would like to be in his laboratory to be like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah, because like you came up with the concept of Cthulhu,
Right.
one of my personal favorite mystical beings, and you okay. Okay.
Do you know some of his monsters, if not all of his monsters, was basically because of the vagina?
No, I did not know that.
You're welcome.
Hmm.
Welcome. All right, so his first significant publication wrote stories like Dagon, um, 1917, and then The Outsiders was 1921, laying the groundwork for his unique brand of cosmic horror. In 1924 through 1926, he got married to Sonia Green, which is really interesting because she was Jewish and he was not. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
To be clear, the reason why my face looks like that is because this man literally uplifted the Nazis. Like
I
he was
know.
so extreme too. He was extreme for the extremist type.
Mm-hmm.
But you're gonna
Mm-hmm.
marry a Jewish woman?
Here we are. I didn't make this stuff up.
I
Cosmic
would love to
horror.
have a conversation.
Ooh, maybe we should see if we can channel him and be like, listen, sir, we have questions. How?
He'd probably be too scared to come to the channel.
Maybe. I doubt. That's true. He probably would. We'd have to go to Providence. We'd have to be like Providence.
He'd also probably feel my intent.
That's probably true too.
You're coming in for a
We
scolding because I have questions and I need to say some things. I have some shit to say.
Oh, yeah, you're not gonna fix him. You're not gonna fix him.
No, not.
Mm-mm.
And
That's
it
just
wouldn't be
that.
for him. It would be more for me because I would feel better.
Right, right, right. Sometimes the puzzle pieces that we got aren't the prettiest ones, but you still fucking need them for the whole picture.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so she was also a writer and an entrepreneur. She was a go-getter.
Oh.
Um, and they were kind of like the exact opposites. She was outgoing, she was very like social, and he was like, no. But uh she got him to move out of Providence and into New York so he could get like more
Ooh.
known. And he had a weird thing about getting paid for his money, like a true gentleman. He had this like true gentleman thing in his head about this is the container that he needs to fit in. And a true gentleman wouldn't take money for his work for some reason, but that's
Uh,
why he was poor most of the time.
Well, then live in poverty, you shithead.
Well, there you go. Um, so then shortly after that, because they were only married for 2 years. So because he wasn't supporting her, she had to support him. And basically she had a hat business and he was doing his writings and stuff. He also encouraged her to do a couple writings too. And then basically the hat shop got closed down and she got work in Ohio, but he was like, no, no, I can't go to Ohio because it's not Providence. So he went back to Providence. And I think that's when he started living with his aunts and stuff.
Because they got divorced after that too, right?
Yeah, because like uh she was still, had high hopes like we all do. When one of our partners missed the mark. Um, so she would send money back to him and support him into all of his stuff. Because I feel like she knew a little bit about what she was getting into, right? And
Yeah.
at some point she thought she could fix him and, he would be better. But you can take the boy out of Providence, but you can't take the Providence out of the boy. So
Apparently not.
He went back to Providence.
Wow. I also, you know what, sometimes I miss from like these like history lessons on these people is like details in the way of like, how the fuck did they meet? This boy didn't want to leave his house. He wanted to stay in the dark corner of the room.
No, he went to a conference with writers.
And that's where they met.
Yeah, because
Ah,
the lure for him was the mind stuff with other like with other writers and stuff so that he could talk and get inspired and
hmm,
have these conversations because if you think about it, when you have cosmic horror on the brain, you have it on the brain all the time. You can't just talk to like Harry that runs the coffee store about your cosmic horror thing and get inspiration from it because he's going to be like, oh, no,
back in the
you
early
know,
1900s, they're like, the fuck are you talking about, guy?
right. They were like, if this was back a couple hundred years, we'd burned you at the stake. But
You also could potentially go into the mental hospital. So,
absolutely, they were throwing people in that shit left and right. So,
yup.
um, so created most of his works um, in this period, including The Call of Cthulhu. Say it.
Cthulhu.
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 You know what? Think about it like how what Pongo is. Like what kind of dog is he?
A Catahoula.
Cthulhu. Catahoula. Think about it like that. Cthulhu.
Cthulhu. Cthulhu. All
Yep.
right. Um, let's see here. The Call of Cthulhu in 1928 and The Mountain of Madness in 1931. And also The Shadow of Innsmouth in 1936. Um, ooh, he also did. I did read the Necronomicon,
Hmm.
which always sounds so weird to me. But I mean, most of the stuff wasn't supposed to be uttered by human larynxes because they're from other dimensions.
Not to like derail, but also you say Necrocomic-Con sounds like a Comic-Con for like necromancers.
Every time I
That's why it sounds
say
weird.
it, every time I say it, that's exactly what I'm thinking of. I'm like, oh, we're going to a Comic Con for Necromancers. It'll be fine. It'll be fun. Let's go.
Well, yeah, no, what could happen there? Nothing.
Raise, we're raising the dead. What are you thinking?
It's a freaking Comic-Con for it.
It's a Comic Con.
Lord.
Good Lord. Um, I don't know. All right, so he died in March 15th in 1937. He was only 46 years old. He died of stomach cancer. And because which, all right, so this is the way I kind of think about death and disease, mostly disease. So you can tell that he had no power or his power stripped away from him because where your power chakra is in your stomach. And that's where he got cancer.
Well,
Well,
you know who else got cancer and died of cancer?
Who?
Crowley's dad.
Of the tongue.
Of the tongue. I'm um
He
I
wasn't
always look at the
speaking his
metaphysical
truth.
meaning of everything because I can. This is who I am. You
Because
guys
it's a
know.
suing.
Due
You,
to the
you
lack of confidence, you have difficulties accepting feelings, especially those of anger and aggression, and you also experience difficulties coping with conflicts. Instead, you prefer to swallow things and let them eat you.
ain't that the fucking truth, dude?
Yep.
I know how he feels.
Secretly just dropping the bomb has stomach cancer. Just kidding.
Just kidding. Let's see here. What else do we got? He was a recluse. He didn't like to go out. Obscurity, poverty. I mean, he lived a short, kind of miserable life, but we got great works out of it.
We did get great works out of it. We got a great genre out of it as well.
Dude, everybody should stop what they're doing after they watch this podcast, of course, and go watch, what did I say? The Color of Space?
The color out of space.
The Color Out of Space. They just redid, there's two time periods of this one. So they just did this one. Nicolas Cage is in it and Laura Dunn's in it, along with some other people that looked kind of famous and fabulous. So this
Mm.
meteorite like lands at this farm place. And it's so funny because when, like I said, when you start to watch this, you really start to see. I'm excited to see his other works that they've turned into movies because I do feel the only reason that he even got famous was because of his friends. After he died, his friends really pushed and publicated and advertised his works,
Yeah.
and they really trusted in his writings. A lot of your um, monster movies, the Witchers, the monsters from the Witchers, they're all inspired from this.
Right. One of the ones that I really want to watch because I love a good 80s flick is From Beyond. Have you watched
Mm-hmm.
that?
Mm-mm.
I saw it in the YouTube video. I was seeing clips of it and I'm like, oh, that's going to be a good 80s horror one. And that one is based on Cthulhu as well. It's like part of that mythos.
Okay.
I was like, that's going on the watch list.
Right. No, it was very interesting to watch the color because it started off as, and I chose to watch the one that was more recent because I feel like at this point in time, when they're doing somebody else's work, they want it so much to be right and authentic.
Hmm.
And sometimes with not having the author there, I feel like, you get these people that are a little more experts on like, um, they've really done the research. They've reread all of the stories, the short stories. They've done their work, right?
Right.
And this one was very interesting because it was almost like being isolated because you're so far away from like help, and then like a bomb being dropped on you because a meteor came out of the sky. And at first it was just like, oh, okay. And then you slowly descend into uh, a bit of madness
Yeah.
after that bomb has like been dropped on you.
Right.
And things that were very familiar or very comforting end up becoming um, deformed and scary and unsafe. So it's a descent into madness with color.
Right. Is that all you have? Because if so, this is a good introduction into like the cosmic core side that I have. Okay, stunning.
Yes.
Because that's a great introduction to this. So I, of course, could not help myself. I didn't know that this was a true genre. Um, but I kind of love it. So cosmic horror is basically a world where your deepest fears aren't born of the shadows of your own psyche. Like, think like they're not like ghosts and paranormal. They're not like the monster that could be hiding under a bed. It's from the vastness of the cosmos itself. So, this is where humanity's place is not at the center of existence, but at the mercy of forces beyond our comprehension and control. So, that's like the domain of like cosmic horror. So it's a genre that transcends the traditional tropes of monsters, like I said, like lurking in the dark or, the deep or like, oh, there's something in the water type deal and goes further into like the abyss of the cosmos and like the indifference of the cosmos and
Mm-hmm.
like just like the fact that humanity doesn't really matter in the way of the cosmos itself. Like we're a blip.
Right. We're
So
ants.
yeah, literally. Ants that don't really
Mm-mm.
matter when it comes to the
Mm-mm.
cosmos itself. So, understanding cosmic horror isn't going to be about the appreciation of the genre as much as it's about grappling with the complexities of our own existence and then the anxieties that stem from the vastness of the cosmos. Because I do know people that get really stressed out when they think too much about space. And that would be cosmic horror, would
Yeah.
play on that.
Dude, okay, I got a little story.
Bring it.
So one day I was smoking pot, as one does. We were living at the condo, so this was years ago. And I had a panic attack. And I'm not one to like, I don't want anybody to like know I'm having a panic attack, so I just stay inside myself and have a panic attack. But I had this panic attack because um I was looking at space. And this whole idea of like I'm looking at a star. And it sounds stupid when I say it now, but when you think about it, it was such a bigger moment than like how my words are going to say it. But like I'm looking at a star and I'm like, what if somebody's looking at me and I'm a star to them? Right? Like this whole like and all of a sudden I felt like my brain was getting too big for my head and I had to go sit down and like
You were
breathe.
throwing yourself over your mental edge. You said, Shh,
I was like,
goodbye,
whew.
buddy. He said, no, take me back.
I was like, but inside because like Rob was sitting right there and I didn't want to disrupt it. I was like, no, I can't tell him. He'll think I'm crazy. Like,
Yup. Yup.
right? Like it was like, no, no, I have to get my own mental groundedness on this thought I fucking just exploded in my head, but I can't tell anybody yet.
Right.
Yeah.
My one that's similar to that, that sounds so stupid too, but it was such a big, like, mind-opening thing for me is when we went to when Mara did that thing with us.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That one almost threw me into a full-blown mental breakdown. I had to have her help me get back into like reality because it
Yeah.
was, it's basically to just simplify it because it's not this simple. It's like you're seeing this pen right here, but it's realizing that there's space around behind the pen, around the pen, above, up, inside the pen, out, like, and then it's just realizing that it's not like looking at a cup and you see it in the 2D. It's a 3D dimensional being, but then also like there's space inside of it and around it and like each like getting down into the deeps and like then we kept going, but we didn't only do ourselves, we kept going, we were in the room and then it was like, and then I was just full blown gone. And I was
Yep.
like, that really blew my mind wide open to being a lot more comfortable with the thought that there is this vast amount of abyss worth of space outside of us.
It's so, well, it's like the ocean. I mean, I find the ocean is a lot like space. And the vastness. And, I watched some of these space movies and I realized that they're so scary because, like, you have one anchor in space. And, you watch these, like, space movies where they jump out of an airlock.
Hmm.
Or, like,
Oh,
you jump off a boat in the middle of the ocean and there's
right.
nowhere and no food and no water and like, oh, it's just mind blowing to me.
What was the movie? She got stranded in space and I could not. I was like, no, that's a no for me, dude. It's okay.
What's that called?
Oh, I know. I'm trying to remember it. Because she did. She got stranded in space. She was like just fucking floating through space. And I'm like, I don't think I can watch that.
Was that Sandra Bullock?
It was Sandra Bullock. I'm pretty sure. Let me see. Um, Gravity.
Gravity.
That was one I watched the trailer and I said, I'm good on that one. I watched her get knocked off that thing in the trailer and I said, yeah, no. Not for me. Cosmic horror.
Cosmic horror.
That is cosmic horror. So cosmic horror is like more than just aliens.
You should watch. There's a series called, fuck, what did we? It's about space. And it's a book series. Ooh. It's like all I can think about is gravity right now, so it's not even gonna help me. Because I don't think
Is it
that
C.S.
is.
Lewis?
No,
Okay.
it's got that Eric Reinhardt in it or something. That's the only famous one. Outer, no, fuck. Anyway, it's on Amazon, and I'll find it and I'll text it to you later. But it was so cool because it literally, like, you had people on Earth, you had people on the moon, you had people on Mars, and then you had people in the belt. Now, we're talking generations too. So they've had time to adapt and evolve in the gravity that they were in. And the people on the belt, because they're in space and there is no gravity on the belt, they couldn't come to Earth because their bones and everything weren't strong enough to pull against the
Oh.
gravity of Earth.
Oh.
It was it was so fascinating.
Yeah, you'll have to find that. Um, okay, so what I have next is that H.P. Lovecraft is considered the father of cosmic horrors with his works The Call of Cthulhu and the Dunwich Horror. The Cthulhu
Mhm.
mythos created a shard universe of interconnected stories populated by ancient, powerful and alien entities that predated humanity and remain largely incomprehensible to us. So this shared universe known as the Cthulhu mythos allowed other authors to contribute to and expand upon Lovecraft's world.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then there was like this big theme of alienation and powerlessness within it. Lovecraft stories consistently explored the themes of human insignificance in the face of cosmic forces, and his characters are often driven by madness by their encounters with the aliens and highlighting the fragility of like the human sanity and the inability of our mind to grasp the true nature of reality.
Yeah. This is
Which
very, because even in the space of color, whatever the fuck that is, um, they would touch on it and this madness would come over them, and then they would like do things that weren't like smart, like, or they weren't thinking straight, or, like it just started to unravel.
Where it's like, what are you fucking doing? You're yelling at the screen. What are you doing? Why would you do that?
Why are you doing that?
Yeah. Another theme Cosmic Core often challenges is the anthropocentric view of the universe, which suggests that humanity is not the center of existence and may not even be a significant player in the cosmic drama. Because anthropocentric, I can read it perfectly in my head, I can hear it, and it's just work means regarding humankind as the central or most important element of existence. So the universe as depicted in cosmic horror is indifferent to human concerns and ambition, and it's a cosmic playground for beings and forces beyond our understanding. So the
Mm-hmm.
sense of insignificant can deeply unsettle people and strip away their sense of purpose and leave them vulnerable to the whims of the universe. So cosmic horror likes to play on that.
It really does make you feel super small. Like it's one of those things where like how small you actually are in the great vast like, space time continuum is nothing. And that alone can push you over the mental like threshold.
Yeah. And so while aliens are also a common element in cosmic horror, they're not the sole genre, like the sole focus of the genre. Cosmic horror can also explore the unsettling aspects of our own planets, like the hidden depth of psyche or the implications of scientific breakthroughs too. I just didn't realize
Mm-hmm.
how big this was and like how much the um cosmic horror genre really covers. I also didn't realize that this is some of my favorite horror.
Yeah, I did not realize that A had a category and B I just thought they were space movies.
Right. And like, let's see. I meant to look this up earlier and I forgot. So some good cosmic horror movies are,
The Expanse.
what'd you say? Oh no, one or both of us is frozen. I don't know who you guys can hear.
Uh,
Oh, there she is.
I can, I can hear you when we freeze. So
Oh, okay, I
we've
couldn't
been
hear
doing fine.
you.
Oh, I'm unstable. I do feel kind
Nice.
of unstable right now. It's my descent into madness. It's starting already.
So do you remember the movie It Comes at Night?
I didn't watch it.
2017. That was a good psychological horror. That's considered cosmic
Hmm.
horror. Let's
Oh,
see. Didn't watch, I haven't watched a lot of these, but my God, do I want to now? Because I'm like, huh. Like Blue Mountain Side. Oh my God, did you watch Underwater with Kristen Stewart?
no, I didn't watch that one either.
Oh my, that movie is one
Can we have
of
a movie
those
day?
movies that literally made me panic so fucking hard because the thought of being stuck underwater and like there's these beings that are
Hmm.
destroying your underground living space, and she had to like go to this other space. She was walking on the bottom of the ocean and at one point in the dark because her freaking light went out, and Kristen Stewart was phenomenal as a horror actress. Like, dude, this movie is, I forgot about it, hands down one of the best horror movies I've seen in the way of like that. I didn't realize that's cosmic horror. That was so freaky. It freaked me out.
Yeah, that would be a good one, actually. I will watch that.
Oh, it's oh, I forgot about this one. Do you remember The Mist?
Yeah.
2007?
Yep.
Cosmic
Hmm.
horror.
Well, yeah, and that was right out of Lovecraft because the things had tentacles and Misty is part of it and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yup. God, that was so good. I want that. I have a full movie list now. We need to have a movie night.
We need
Did
to have a movie night.
Oh, did you ever watch The Ritual from 2017?
Oh, yeah. That
That's
was
cosmic
great.
horror.
I was thinking that it kind of was because the monster in the end quite looks it's a mesh of things.
Huh. I wonder if I've watched this. Well, we obviously have some
The
movies we could
Ritual.
watch today. Yeah.
So these were five guys. It was kind of like Descent, but it was five guys, six guys. They were like, we should go do something like hike in the mountains in Switzerland or something like that. And like the other guys are like, yeah, yeah, sure, sure. And then they like, there's a huge accident and they ended up going to this, having to go on this trip. And once they get into the woods, just some creepy shit starts happening.
Ooh, I love it.
It's a pretty good one.
The last one they have in here that's also cosmic horror is The Thing.
Well, that makes sense too.
Yeah.
Well, and that one is straight off of what is the one? There's one of his titles that was just about a frozen place. And like it was actually uh one of his stories that they had to go to the Antarctica and they found an alien place underneath the like mountains and stuff like that. So the thing and the story are kind of based loosely based off each other, I think,
Hmm.
because I haven't looked at it yet, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't I didn't say anything in that, of course, but The Thing was a pretty popular movie when it came out.
It's still a cult, like cult classic
It
kind of
is,
thing. Like it's something you have to watch as a horror fan,
yeah,
right? Especially the monster, if you're really into monsters part of horror.
I know I am.
I know I
Um,
am.
okay, so I really quick want to talk about like some of the Lovecraftian horror, the underpinnings of the psychology and the physiology or philosophical, there it is, behind like his meaning and what he brought to cosmic horror. He brought existential dread and cosmic indifference. So that core concept being that it suggests that if the universe is bad, it suggests that the universe is vast, uncaring, and indifferent to humanity, right? And that this challenges traditional, the anthropocentric views. The psychological roots behind that is his ideas align with existentialism and nihilism, emphasizing the insignificance of the human life. And then the psychological impact of that is like confronting the idea that the human existence is meaningless, and that can induce fear, helplessness, as well as it could induce awe.
Hmm.
Because you could be in awe by that, which agreed.
Absolutely.
Um, Another one is like fear of the unknown. So Lovecraft believed the greatest fear is the fear of the unknown, and his stories
Hmm.
often involve the protagonist encountering incomprehensible like phenomenon and like things that like you just could not understand.
Hmm.
So the philosophical roots is that this taps into the study of knowledge and questioning what we can truly be known or understood. And then the psychological impact is that humans are hardwired to seek patterns and explanations. And when faced with the inexplicable, it's triggering that deep-seated anxiety and paranoia.
Hmm.
I only have a couple more, but the next one is human insignificance in the face of the infinite. He brought that core concept to cosmic core, which portrays humanity as a fleeting, unimportant aspect of a much larger internal, like a cosmos.
Well, and this is so crazy because we think we're so important,
Yeah,
like as a species,
right.
and or even as an individual, right?
Yep,
And it's such a weird concept for my head right now because I'm like, A, does it matter if I don't matter?
right.
And then to who am I supposed to matter to?
Well, and like my one was like, well, two things on that is that this man in the 1900s was bringing all these concepts to us. And now I'm sitting here looking at the fear of the unknown and the psychological impact about how we're hardwired to seek patterns and explanations. But when faced with the inexplicable, where it triggers that deep-seated anxiety and paranoia, and it's like, that makes me realize, like, do I have to know everything? Like, because like, and
Yeah, I
without
do.
knowing and without searching for it, then yeah, there is that anxiety and that paranoia behind not
Hmm.
knowing. And I was like,
Right.
wow, and he thought about all of this and he's just
No
out here
wonder he
playing
stayed in
on
his
fears.
house.
Yeah, that's the other thing is this man is bringing all these ideas to cosmic horror. He brought these. I it just I'd stay in my house too.
I'd stay in my house too.
So the philosophical roots of the human insignificance in the face of the infinite is going to be that his views reflect cosmicism, which is a philosophy he pioneered that denies any specific special role for humanity in the universe. He was also, by the way, a self-proclaimed atheist, which after all this, I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense for sure.
The psychological impact is realizing one's lack of control or relevance can lead to an existential crisis, but also to a humbling sense of awe. My last two is forbidden knowledge and madness. Um, so the core concept being that many Lovecraftian protagonists are driven insane after uncovering the truth about the universe, gods, or their own reality. And your philosophical root here is that this parallels ideas of epistemic hubris, which is the danger of seeking knowledge beyond what the mind can handle.
Hmm.
And then the psychological impact is going to be the loss of rationality in oneself. Um, the rationality, the loss of rationality and self in one of humanity's deepest fears, representing a breakdown of identity and reality. Lord have mercy. This last one is going to get me. The last core thing that he brought to was anthropocentric hubris and the consequences. So the core of this mainly meaning Lovecraft critiques humanity's arrogance in believing we can dominate nature or uncover an ultimate truths. And the philosophical impact is that this echoes themes in Enlightenment skepticism, questioning the limits of human reason and science. And the psychological impact is that when the human hubris is punished in Lovecraft's stories, it reflects the anxiety of overreaching and parallels of in the perils of ambition. And that's what I got. And I barely made it through that. Whew.
Good Lord. Well, in our descent into madness, I think this was a good start. Um, because it is, even studying stuff like hermetics or spirituality is kind of like studying space. Like it's so big and it's ever changing and it's what you kind of can reflect onto it. Like what I know is being reflected to me when I read these things, right? I mean, it's just like when we read The Power of Now and you read it the first time compared to when you read it the second time and you're like, fuck, did I even read this book the first time? Was I even listening?
Right.
Because that book has changed now and your brain can like see the stuff you didn't see in the first place. And that's why the mind is such a kind of, I don't know, I guess you could call it scary, but wondrous place because it almost brings in the stuff that you're able to handle first. And then you go back and you reread it again. And because it's evolved and thought these thoughts, now we can handle a different like approach on it, right?
Yeah, it's just as simple as like you learn a bigger word that means it encompasses way small, way, a lot more smaller words that now you get to use that because you learned it. But before you had to learn the smaller words to be able to even understand what the hell that meant.
Yeah, before that, you had to learn what A was and B and C and whatever, right?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's the evolution of these kind of thoughts. And, you know, I think madness is and hysteria is one of those things where I think if you go too fast, too soon, and your brain doesn't get a chance to like put down a foundation before you start building, is where we start to like teeter-totter into darkness and madness.
Absolutely. If you don't catch yourself, you also like you feel it. All of a sudden nothing makes sense in the world and you're like, I can't even get a grasp on reality. You're like, it's a horrible place to be in the way of like it does help to push your boundary open more and like give you more
Mm-hmm.
expanse to put things on,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time you have to be so careful because I could just see how you can really just like you said just
Well, that's the
absolutely
thing
lose
is
it.
like, you know, the fact that you were like, if we can expand it a little bit. So if it's a rubber band, we know that if we expand it just a little bit more, we can stretch it a little bit. It stretches out a little bit more, right? But if we go too fast, too big all at once, it snaps. And that's exactly what happens with your mind sometimes is that it snaps and then we throw you into, you know, a cushiony box.
Yes.
Which some
Yes.
days I'm like, okay.
Right. Yeah.
Oh well, those are the days.
Next week we're talking about the history of witchcraft. We got 2 more episodes left of this season, yo.
Two more? That's freaking crazy. I can't believe it's the end of the year already.
I know, it's so bizarre. Crazy town.
It really is crazy.
Yeah. Like I said, next week is the history of witchcraft. And do you got anything else for them?
Um, no. Watch some Lovecraft stuff.
I know I will be.
Descend into madness with me.
And me. All
Make
right.
your own monsters. I don't know. That's
Right.
all I got.
All right, peeps. We'll see you in the next episode.